In this video, I'm reviewing and testing out the Canoly JE24 cold press juicer, so let's get started. Thank you to Canoly who kindly sent over their juicer model JE24 for me to test and to give a review on. Inside the box is a large 110 ounce feed container, or as Canoly have labelled it, the hopper. This is their standout feature for the juicer as it makes it perfect for big batches. The juicing bowl comes attached to it. We have a 350 watt motor base, a cleaning brush and two containers, one for the juice and one for the pulp. Unfortunately, the juicer they sent me was already used with some stains and scratches on it. However, it still gives me a great opportunity to see how it performs. I'll be testing it from ease of assembly and disassembly, the juicing process and cleaning. The base is fairly lightweight with side vents for heat outflow, and its narrow, compact shape is great for small countertops. They've designed the base narrow in length with a wide depth. At the back is a nice big button for on, off and reverse, and it also has a nice deep handle to make it easy to carry around your kitchen if you need to store it away, which is great. As always, I'm going to wipe down the base and wash out all the parts and accessories before using it. Assembly is a little confusing, but once you get the positioning right, the rest should fall into place easily. First, attach the juicing bowl onto the base. The tricky part here is knowing which way to align the outlets. So you want to make sure the measurements on the juicing bowl are facing forward. That will be your guide to making sure the feed container is placed on top correctly. Next, insert the auger by aligning it with the shaft on the motor base and then sliding it down all the way until it's firmly in place and connected with the shaft on the motor base. I also found it's best to place it with the tip of the auger closest to the back of the base. This makes it easier to place the feed container over, which I'll get to in a minute. The filter is detachable, so insert the filter into the bottom part of the feeding container here with the bigger holes towards the top until you hear it click in all the way. Finally, we're going to place the feeding container by sliding it over the auger. First, align the triangle mark with the unlock symbol before rotating the triangular mark clockwise to the lock symbol. This will lock the feeding container to the juicing bowl. If this isn't locked in, it won't operate. And since we're here, I'll show you how to open the lid. There is a latch under the handle here. Pull it towards the handle to release it and the lid will pop open. Now I'll show you how to disassemble it, which can also be a little confusing at first. The manual says to press the reverse button for 1 to 3 seconds to unlock it and then lift the entire juicing components, but that doesn't actually work. Instead, the feed container unlocks and moves counterclockwise and you still can't separate it. So whatever you do, keep your hands away from this position. I tried so many times and spent a few minutes fidgeting with it. Sometimes it would come off and others it wouldn't, and then I finally figured out how to do it. You have to unlock the handle by turning it counterclockwise, then lock it and then lift the components from the base. It's really confusing, I know, but once you get the hang of it and don't follow the instruction manual, you should be okay with it. Once you've separated it from the base, then turn the feed container counterclockwise to release it from the juicing bowl. You can remove the filter from the feed container for easy cleaning by sliding it out. And then finally, you can remove the auger by pulling it upwards and out. Let's move on to the performance of the juicer. In my previous review video of the Canoly 003 model, someone left a comment that they weren't very happy that I didn't try ginger. So I have about a 10-inch piece here. I did peel it because I want to reuse the pulp in my cooking. And also I cut it up into pieces because it's noted in the instruction manual. And there's also a yellow sticker here notifying you to cut it up for better performance and results. I placed all the pieces in the feed container and began juicing, and the juicer had no issues crushing the pieces. And you can instantly see how the pulp is in the outlet. The juicer extracted about 50 ml of ginger juice. It's really hard to see the measurements on the containers. They really should have used a different color to the container. And as I pour the juice out, you can see how pure the color is, and I was impressed at how smooth the juice was with no bits of pulp left behind in the container. When juicing celery, again I chopped them up into slightly smaller pieces and dropped them into the feed container. I juiced 4 celery stalks, and although the juicer had no issues crushing them, it did make quite a bit of noise during the process. The exact amount of juice extracted was a little hard to read on the container, but from 4 celery stalks it looked about 50 mils. Again, when pouring out the celery juice, it was so smooth and no bits at all left behind in the container, compared to its previous model, the Canoly 003. Moving on to apples, I left the skin on, but I did cut them up as the manual suggested. Actually, the manual also said to remove hard skin, but I'm going to test it anyway. Starting with one apple because it's quite big, and I just dropped them into the feed container. The juicer did okay. It was noisy and there were some chunks of apple stuck to the side of the container. The food pusher is designed to stop before reaching the auger, and it also can't reach the sides to scrape down any stuck on food, so I did have to reposition them by hand. Unfortunately, it did leave chunks of hard skin behind, so it's always best to peel and cut up apples before juicing them. From one big red apple, the juicer extracted about 200 mils of juice. And I liked that a lot of the foam stayed inside the juicing bowl, so when I poured it all out, very little came out from the container, and you can see that there's no bits of pulp in there either. This time I decided to juice red grapes, since I did green in my previous video where I reviewed the AMZ Chef Juicer. Unfortunately for me, I forgot to insert the silicone plug at the bottom of the juicing bowl, and thankfully I noticed it as soon as I saw the pulp coming out. So I ended up creating extra work for myself by disassembling the unit and then restarting the process again. The grapes are soft, so this shows how the juicer handles more delicate ingredients. I juiced 2 cups of red seedless grapes, which extracted about just over 200 mils of juice. It looks about 220 mils of juice. As I pour out the juice, you can see the rich color and thick texture, and also one tiny bit of grape skin, which I'm sure sneaked in when the plug was removed. After the ginger root, I'm confident that it can handle baby carrots on their own. So instead I wanted to try and mix up my fruits and veggies to see how the juicer handles everything together to create a juice blend. So I started with 1 cup of baby carrots, 1 peeled orange, left whole, 1 peeled and diced apple with the core removed, and a bunch of red grapes, about a cup or so. The auger was able to crush through everything, although it did get a little noisy. But the juicing bowl filled up quickly and you can see all the foam being separated from the juice. When I released the juice, it came out with so much force that it moved the container out of place because I wasn't holding onto it. So next time I'll remember to open the drip cover slowly when the juice bowl is filled to the max, or I'll just make sure I'm holding onto the container to prevent it from moving out of place. The juice was a vibrant color, and although it didn't contain any pulp bits in the container, it did have a thick, rich texture to it. Taking a look at the pulp produced from each of the fruits and veggies that I juiced, the ginger pulp was extremely dry and the yogurt had no pulp trapped underneath where the shaft is. Even the bowl had very little pulp trapped inside. Similarly, the pulp was relatively dry for celery, but it did leave behind some larger pieces in the bowl. However, underneath the yogurt was completely clean, unlike its previous model, the Canoly 003, which had a lot of pulp trapped underneath the yogurt. The pulp from the apples felt a little wet when compared to other juices, and there were a lot of trapped skin chunks in the yogurt area and in the feed container. But again, the manual does state to peel the skin before juicing any apples or anything with hard skin. And the juicing bowl also contained quite a bit of the hard skin. You can just use the cleaning brush to clear out the pulp outlet. And you can also see that there is a lot of foam held back in the juicing bowl. The red grapes I used were seedless and soft inside with hard skin on the outside. It did leave behind a lot of the hard skin in the feed container and on the yogurt. The juicing bowl contained a fair bit of grape juice, which I'm not surprised with, since grapes do contain a high amount of juice, and the hard skin likely prevented the juice from reaching the outlet. The pulp from the fruit and veg blend was a little wet, but that was expected since it contained high juice contents like the orange and grapes. The feed container was clear. The filter trapped some of the orange pulp, but it was nothing extreme. And the yogurt had some of the softer pulp wrapped around it, which is normal and expected. But the underside was clear with only some juice from the orange dripping from it. The juicing bowl was also wet inside from the orange and grape juice, but it was easy enough to clean with the cleaning brush. It's best to wash all the parts and accessories by hand. I like to dump everything in a bowl and then fill it with water to catch all the pulp. You can remove the filter from the container for easy cleaning using the cleaning brush, and then run it through a strainer so the pulp doesn't clog my drains. The juicing bowl is also cleaned easily, and opening the silicone plug lets you get the flat side of the cleaning brush in to push out any trapped pulp. Just remember to close the silicone plug, otherwise you will end up with some juice coming out of your pulp outlet, like I did with my grapes. So overall, the Canoly JE24 juicer performs well, but there are a few things to keep in mind. First, while the large 110 ounce feed container is impressive, you need to remember that the juicing bowl can only hold so much juice at a time, up to 500 ml of juice. You'll either need to leave the drip cover open for continuous juicing or stop and release the juice between batches. The juicer uses a two-stage filter system with larger holes for initial extraction and smaller holes for fine filtering. This makes sure that the juice comes out nice, smooth and clean. However, I noticed that certain ingredients like apples still left behind chunks in the yogurt area. Something important here to mention is that while the advertising suggests minimal cutting and preparation, the manual and my results both show that you'll need to cut up your ingredients to get the best performance, especially for harder fruits and vegetables. Unlike some of the other juicers out there like the AMZ Chef, which includes cutting blades, so that actually takes away the prep work. Although that said, the Canoly JE24 does do a great job at extracting juice efficiently, especially the tougher ingredients like ginger and celery. The pulp is dry and the juice is smooth with minimal foam. And compared to its previous Canoly 003 model, I hardly saw any bits of pulp in the container when pouring it out, and you can definitely see the difference and feel the difference in the taste of the juice. Cleaning is straightforward, though disassembly can be really finicky until you get used to it. So all in all, if you're looking for a juicer that can handle a variety of ingredients and you're willing to spend a bit of time on prep, the Canoly JE24 is a good fit, and it's also great for small counter spaces. Alright guys, I hope you found the video useful. Please don't forget to leave a like and a comment. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I will leave links to this juicer in my description box. Please go check them out if you want to see more about the juicer. If you are new to my channel, do consider subscribing, and I hope to catch you in my next video.